Hello. So I told you before that we would do some canning. So getting stuff set up for canning here. Easiest ways to can is just have everything ready. There's 1,000 recipes on the internet. Refer to the book that you get your pressure cooker from. There's good recipes in there. I can my venison at 15 pounds for 90 minutes. So I'll give you a little tour of what's going on here. There's the required cup of coffee. There's my venison. You can see some of the larger cuts. Some seasoning, some real butter, grass-fed real butter, canning pickling salt. Here are potatoes, carrots, onions, garlic, rutabaga. They're all in there. My tools: measuring spoon, can jar lifter, funnel, magnet, headspace. These are the weights for the pressure cookers. Now these are the two pressure cookers that I have. They're both 22 quart, different brands. One's a Mir, one's a Matre. And this is actually a small pressure cooker that I just use as a pot to sterilize my lids. Now in here I got 7 quart jars, warming up, steaming, same way right there. Now I do it this way because it helps get the jars ready. It sterilizes the jars. It also gets the rubber gasket nice and warm and pliable, so it seals up fast. The lids I got here, I want to boil them for 10 minutes, and that sterilizes them. It also helps loosen up the sealing ring so they seal better and seal more efficient. Now, when I can venison, I do it a couple different ways. I usually put onions and garlic in the canning jar, irregardless of what else I do. Now, what I have done in the past is I put potatoes and carrots and stuff in there also. Ready-made stew. So I get my meat, make sure I got my meat all separated and ready to put in. It's all nice and defrosted. There's still some ice crystals on it, but that's okay. Set the jars on this towel, because those jars are warm. Bench cold. Also, since they're warm, they're going to be a little fragile. You see they're nice and steaming. Inside these pressure cookers I only have about 1.5 inches, 2 inches of water at the most. So put an onion in. Put a piece of meat in. Put an onion in. Piece of meat. Some onions. Piece of meat. Just kind of label it all the way up, layer it all the way up. I put 1 clove of garlic per jar. Just slice it up 2 or 3 times. Don't have to get crazy with it. And then you want meat to within 1 inch of the top. So a little bit of more meat in there. Okay, that's how it's going to be started out. You got onions, meat, onions, meat, onions, meat, some garlic at the top, and some meat. Now, take a little bit of your seasoning that you prefer. 1 teaspoon. Of the seasoning is what I put in. I use Montreal steak. and about a half a teaspoon or 2/3 of a teaspoon of pickling salt. Now for the butter. I don't know, a pat of butter, tablespoon of butter. But use real butter. Don't use margarine or some of the continuously soft butters. Use an actual jar of real butter. So then we just continue on doing it all along. You don't have to put the onions in there. You don't have to put the seasonings in there. You can can this with a little bit of salt and just the natural juices of the meat if you wish to. Generally when I cook venison I always put garlic and onions on it anyways, so this just kind of saves that step. Now, the nice thing about canning venison is, one, it lasts. It doesn't require electricity to last, and it just tastes good. If you don't use seasoning, use a whole teaspoon of salt. There's already salt in this other spices I'm using, so I'm not going to add more salt than what's necessary. Just a little pat of butter on the top. The butter is the oil. You can use olive oil. You can use a little bit of vinegar in there if you wish. It doesn't hurt nothing. You want to throw a little bit of red wine vinegar on top of there, or some apple cider vinegar, feel free to. Nothing wrong with that at all. Canning really makes it nice and tender. It really does. Good old-fashioned pot roast that was you could eat with a fork. That's how this is going to come out. Don't worry about the seasonings only being on the top. As they cook, it'll circulate and stir right up. Next really big important step is getting all the water up, all the air out. You don't want to put too much water in because it's going to create its own juices. So you only want about an inch of water in the bottom of the jar. What you want to do is make sure you get all the air out. See, that air pocket, you gotta get that out of there, right there. Only just a couple inches of water in the bottom of the jar is all you need. You want these jars to bubble for about 10 minutes. Oil. We're going to start on this next jar. In this next jar I'm going to use a little more, some potatoes, some carrots, some rutabaga, drop some meat in, some onions, some garlic, rutabaga, carrots, potatoes, some meat, the same teaspoon of seasoning, teaspoon of salt, a little bit of butter. while those lids are finishing up boiling, here's my drain tub that I put my meat in and sorted it out. You can see all the blood that drained out of it. I think that by doing that, you're saving a lot of the meat, the gamey taste of the meat. Same deal, just an inch or two of water in the bottom of the jars. If you don't do that, then they boil over and you'll lose your seal. If you put too much water in there, they'll boil over. This is important right here. You got to make sure the lips of the jars are completely clean. There's no leftover seasonings on them. No nicks. If there's anything on the lip of that jar, that lid may not seal, or it may seal temporarily. You put it on the shelf and it pops on you, and you've lost all your work because you don't know when it broke, so you can't eat it. So once you know that your jars lids are all nice and clean, take your magnet stick and put your lids on. Now this is your tricky part right here. You got to put these on. You don't want to reef them down. You want to bring them down snug, finger tight, and back them off just a scotch. You're going to have to figure out what a scotch is. If you leave them on too tight, the jar will break in the can. And it just makes a real big mess. You want the jar to be able to, the lid to be able to bounce. You also want to make sure that the lid doesn't have any dents in it that will create uneven pressure. Set your weight for 15 pounds. You got 5, 10, 15. At our sea level, I'm supposed to can at 12 pounds, but I can't really do that, so I go to the next highest number, and I go for 90 minutes. From the point that that thing starts jiggling, I do 90 minutes. And then you adjust your heat up and down to where it's jiggling once or twice a minute. This will be better than any Dinty Moore Sioux you ever had. Now they're just sitting on there and they're building pressure on the inside, and as soon as this weight starts jiggling, then I'll back the temperature down to where I want it just to jiggle once or twice a minute. This is a can of venison that I canned last year. You can see the onions, the garlic, the seasonings floating around in there. And this is nice and vacuum still. This would be great. Pop it open, you put it on a bed of noodles, a bed of rice, or just put it in a pot with some other vegetables. It's great. You can eat it right out of the can. Pop the can, put it in a little pan, heat it up, put some barbecue sauce on it. You got shredded venison. This is chicken breasts I did. Or, excuse me, these are chicken thighs. I just did this year. Same principle. No spices or seasonings though, just a little bit of salt. No oil. That oil is just what came out of the thigh itself. Same deal. You can pop this open, eat it. Noodles, rice, barbecue sauce, whatever you want, right on the sandwich. Well, while these are cooking, we'll shut this camera off, and about an hour and a half to 2 hours, we should be able to look at it. There's the noise we're looking for right there. You see it jiggle and it rattle a little bit. We want that to do that about twice a minute, according to the book. Again, you need to read the book that your pressure cooker came with, understand those directions, look up online at several different books out there that will tell you how to use these and how to use a water bath can. So what I'll do is when this starts jiggling a lot, then I'm going to turn the temperature down to the point where it jiggles about twice a minute. Sometimes you get this steam coming out over here, a little tap. That one's jiggling really nice. So you want to turn the temperature down gradually. We cooked them for about an hour and a half. Now it takes about a half hour for them to get up to pressure, so technically they were cooking for about 2 hours. 1 hour and 30 minutes at roughly 15 pounds of pressure. So they've been cooking for that long. The timer was done. You just shut the burners off and you wait about an hour. You want to make sure that all the pressure is out of the pot. So just by jiggling the weight, you can see that all the steam is gone. You don't want to relieve the pressure too quick, because if you relieve the pressure too quick, then it'll crack the jars. So release the pressure a little bit at a time. It's best just to let them cool down on their own. What we're going to do is we're going to pop the lid on this one. We're going to take the jars out. We're going to set them over here on top of this towel. What I do is I use the jar thing to tighten up the lids a little bit when I got them in there. As you can see, it's still bubbling. I'm not using the jar holder to grab the lid. I'm using it to grab the little bead, the glass rim here. I don't know if you can see it or not, but all these lids, this one and that one and that one, that one and that one, they're dished. They're dished in. Now if you look, this one here is still popped up, and this one here is still popped up. Now you do not want to touch these. You want to let them suck in on their own. So you just put a towel over them. That'll help them cool slowly. All the pressure's out of this pot now, so we're just going to go ahead and do the same thing. We're going to remove the jars, put them over here, and let them cool down slowly. And they'll suck in on the lids on their own. You don't want to force that. You want that to do it on its own. If you push in on it, then it's a false seal, and you really can't trust the seal on it. Now, if they don't pop in on their own, it's no biggie. We'll just eat them this week. See them still bubbling? And I'm leaving some good space amongst all of them. Isn't that neat how they just sit there and bubble like that? And man, they'll do that forever. For an hour, they'll be sitting down here bubbling. So what we're going to do is we're going to cover them up, help them cool down nice and slowly. You don't want them to cool down too quickly. If you notice, these are all dished in. That one still isn't. It'll suck it on its own. If it don't, I'll eat it. Cover them up nice so they cool down nice and slow. Well, there you have it. That's how easy it is to can venison. It's not as difficult as it seems. The first time I did it, I read all the books. It sounded really cautious, The pressure cookers I got off of family members who don't can anymore. So the investment isn't that much. Even if you go buy a new pressure cooker, it's only about $70 for a 22 quart. Watch the yard sales for jars or pressure cookers of yourself. The benefits of doing this: no electricity, no refrigeration. It can last up to 2 years, easy. Convenience, a couple hours of time right now saves me a lot of time throughout the year for ease of making meals. Dump them on a bed of noodles, dump them on a bed of rice, chili, shredded venison. When I put the vegetables in there, I can dump them into a bowl and have put some crackers with it, and I'll have soup. So, any questions, please ask. Again, do this at your own risk. Read the books, read the internet, read all the materials you can. This is how I do it. It works for me and my family. If you have any other questions or comments, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you.